Hello, everybody. So we are witnessing major change in the market, major change with these Bitcoin Treasury companies and these companies announcing every day now almost there's a new company announcing that they are planning to accumulate Bitcoin. And this one is pretty special. I would put it, up there with 21 Capital. This is a development as special as 21 Capital. These are serious companies with serious backers, and this one has serious backers, including 4 billionaires, and frankly, they're all of them extremely well connected. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to do a little people search in the middle to tell you who these 4 billionaires are. Before I do that, let's talk about this company. So ticker symbol of the company is going to be NASDAQ ASST, and it's called Asset Entities. Asset Entities is a micro cap. It's a micro cap, which frankly they chose because the major benefit of it is it's already listed on the NASDAQ. They're a social media company. They have 2 million people following them on social media. They do a lot of TikTok. They're a small social media microcap, and they operate in the stocks business, right? They talk about side hustles and making money. This microcap operates social media accounts about making money. So somewhat of a synergy with the asset manager Strive, but really not that much. Not very important. The big focus of this video, of course, is Strive. So who is Strive? Strive is a private asset manager, and they work with a lot of financial advisor offices, actually more than 7,000 of them. They have various ETFs. You can see it's a long list of ETFs they got. But Strive is famous for being and I'm going to quote what the news calls it, but there's probably a better word for it, but the news keeps calling it the anti-ESG investor, anti-ESG activist investors, where they vote against ESG. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I don't have the time to dig deep enough. Some investments are just misplaced. To me, an asset manager should fight misplaced investments. It's tough to find real information about this company because of a political tilt of all of these articles, right? But if a company is mismanaged, it's probably, maybe it's because of ESG, but not all the time. So I don't really know. But Strive has gotten a lot of bad rap because of the association as this anti-ESG narrative and its association with J.D. Vance. Do you know who he is? Yeah, right? The Vice President of the United States. And Vivek Ramaswamy. If you live abroad, Vivek Ramaswamy may not ring a bell, but in the US, he rings a major bell. He was a big part of the 2024 campaign, fought against Trump in the campaign, etc. Anyways, that's a tangent. So let's talk about them. So you're mostly buying Strive, right? And a mini social media company who's talk about making money with side hustles. But otherwise, the business is mostly Strive. You're mostly investing in this pseudo right-leaning asset manager, as dubbed by the media, and so you're investing in this asset manager. They have $2 billion of asset management. Of course, how do asset managers make money, right? They earn fees on the $2 billion. So that's point number one. That's what you're buying. In the process of going public, though, they are going to become a bigger company because in the process of going public, they have an offer, a Section 351 exchange offer to any accredited investor who wants to contribute in-kind Bitcoin on a dollar-to-dollar basis to the Strive entity, to the newly formed Strive public market entity, to the new common, the new shares, right? And of course, we know a lot of people sometimes are not comfortable owning Bitcoin in a pure form, and they don't want to sell it to buy an ETF because that triggers a tax event. This company, right, Strive, has done a lot of legwork to try to figure out whether it's taxable or not, and they got letters from the IRS, not the IRS, but letters from lawyers. I don't really know what they did, but the point is they are fairly confident that this Section 351 exchange is going to work, and a lot of people are going to be able to swap their Bitcoin into a Strive asset, into the Strive stock, and that without triggering a tax event. And that's important because I think they're going to attract a lot of early Bitcoin investors. Peter Thiel, of course, is involved. I don't know how many Bitcoins Peter Thiel has, but clearly, it's a way for you to acquire a company built on Bitcoin without triggering a tax event. That's a very innovative way to raise funds. I will point out that the blockchain group, that little French company I covered the other day, has done the same thing. They raised 620 Bitcoin with in-kind convertible debt. So of course, Saylor is buying them on the open market. It's going to be very tough to beat Saylor by buying Bitcoin on the open market. But if people start contributing Bitcoin to these companies, well, that's, the bet is on, if that makes sense. You can have, because there's a lot of private holders of Bitcoin, right? How many Bitcoins does Max Kaiser have, for example, right? I don't know, but there's a lot of very early on OGs who have a lot of Bitcoin who would be really happy to be able to swap that Bitcoin in kind for a stock, and then that stock lives on the traditional fiat financial rails, and then they can borrow against that stock. They can do a pledged asset line against that stock. There's a lot of benefits to owning a company as opposed to a commodity. People want to diversify sometimes, have a little Bitcoin, have some of a commodity, but also have it under the form of a company, and this helps you to do that. This is a big deal. And then, after the merger, which should happen sometime in the summer of 25, they plan on growing the bag of Bitcoin by judging their investment via the hurdle rate of Bitcoin. And so that is 29-30% if you believe Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor's belief in the hurdle rate of Bitcoin is 29% in the Bitcoin 2024 model. So what does that mean? That means that any investment you would consider who does not yield 29% per year, you would not buy. You would not buy any company, you would not invest in any company who is not going to return more than 29% average annual return per year. I want to point out that this is very similar to all of the stocks that I cover on the channel, right? When I talk about HIMS on this channel. Yesterday I had a comment about people telling me, why do I talk about LifeMD? Well, I talk about LifeMD, I talk about HIMS, I talk about BioStem, I talk about a lot of stocks which I believe will beat the hurdle rate, which I believe will beat the rate of return of Bitcoin. If they beat the rate of return of Bitcoin, then I'm fine owning a company, even if that company is a fiat derivative. Even if that company operates under a fiat standard, I'm fine owning it if it actually surpasses the hurdle rate of Bitcoin. I'm technically fine owning it if it surpasses 15%, but, really I've been pickier and pickier of my picks lately, and a lot of the small caps can do that, and that's fine, but there's so much malinvestment in the S&P 500. Think about it in the S&P 500. All of these malinvestments that are going on, all of these companies that are essentially zombie companies because they're not judged by the Bitcoin hurdle rate by all of these assets managers. And it makes a lot of sense for a company like Strive, who aims to be a different asset manager, I'm going to call it. It makes a lot of sense for them to start judging investments via the hurdle rate of Bitcoin. I love this very much. This is very similar to me trying to achieve 30% average annual return by picking ultra high growth stocks or by picking stocks built on Bitcoin. Moving on. So what am I doing with this stock? And this is again back to earth here. I am not a trader. Know who you are as an investor. And crypto attracts a lot of people who are very good at meme coins, who are very good at layer 2s, all sorts of layer 2s. Crypto attracts a whole lot of traders. And these new equities, the day they're announced, these new SPACs, because they're essential. I mean, this is getting similar to the SPAC craze at this point, but it's the Bitcoin SPAC craze. All of these companies are being beat up by traders, and to me, I'm not a trader. So know what you are and know what you're good at, right? I know a lot of people made a lot of money on asset entities already. People who are on their computer all day long, who have alerts set up on their phone, and they get an alert from XYZ influencer, and there is an alert, and you see that XYZ influencer bought the stock at like 250, and you follow them into it, and you buy it at 270. Well, that's great, and you do a trade, but then you got to know how to get out. I want to point out that you got to time your buy properly. If you look at CEP, right? What is it? Was it 10 days ago? So 10 days ago, CEP was all the rage. It went up to 50, right? $50 a share. Now it's back at $34 a share, right? It goes back down to earth. So Sol Strategies, that was in what was it, last year? Middle of last year. Similar business, but this time on Solana. This one is down 50%. This one was up to 4 and then it went down, right? So to me, when I look at these stocks as an investment, I want I don't want to call it speculation, because I don't think these stocks are going to go back to the levels where they were trading, but I think there's going to be a peak, and I don't want to buy it at the peak, right? So I'm judging the quality of the business, but I'm also relaxing, watching it from afar, and once we can actually get a price to NAV, which for Strive we're going to get that price to NAV what? Summer, late summer, probably late summer 2025 is when we're going to get the price to NAV of Stripe. And that's when I will decide whether I'm interested in Stripe or not. When I actually get a price to NAV, when things settle down, when the summer is cooled down, I'll take a harder look at CEP, and I'll take a harder look at ASST, Strive, right? I'm waiting to see where we end up and where valuation actually is. But it depends on who you are. If you are a trader, if you're fine getting in and out of positions, if you can do that in a single day, great for you. But the pattern for me is not stable, and these companies are just too volatile for now. And you can do a 2x, but I would argue you can also easily lose half. So that's why these are not investment stage companies yet. They're too early. My point. But what do I like about Strive? Right, and I'm talking down the road. Imagine September of 25, right? We have a price to NAV. The stock has been trading for a month. It's clear we're seeing some sort of a shareholder base coming in. They communicate normally. Then what will I think of Strive? Well, I will think of Strive probably as highly, if not more highly, than 21 Capital. Although, 21 Capital, it's worth mentioning that the backing is impressive. Jack Mallers, right? And Tether, that's the backing. That's pretty darn impressive. Well, guess what? Of this one? And by the way, 21 Capital also has some backing from Cantor. Okay, that's another backer. Strive. Let's talk about Strive now. They also have an A-star list of investors. Big time A-star list of investors. Billionaire number one at about $1 billion is a big pharma, I guess medium-sized pharma founder in Vivek Ramaswamy. He has a huge stake in Strive. It's unclear if he still controls Strive, and this is where the research is so tough. If you look at articles from 23, yeah, they say he still controls Strive. I'm sure you can dig into the report and find if he still controls it or not. For the purpose of this video, I'm gonna tell you he has a huge stake in Strive. But you gotta be careful, because these are politicians, and so you're gonna have a lot of media who says a lot of stuff. When I read the media talk about J.D. Vance's stake in Narya Capital, it makes me feel like J.D. Vance is a billionaire. J.D. Vance is not a billionaire. I'm not saying he's not going to be at some point, but like the media makes you feel like he's a very powerful person, but he's not a billionaire. But J.D. Vance has exposure to Strive. He's got exposure to Strive through his VC fund, Narya Capital, who has about $50 million invested in Strive. So he's got deca millions probably riding into Strive, but the media makes you seem like he's the big guy behind that, right? He's a smaller investor. Now, someone to obviously not to be faded, multi-deca billionaire, probably on his way at some point to being a centi-billionaire, is Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel, founder of PayPal. Friend or frenemy depending on the season of Elon Musk, right? Founder of a PayPal mafia, founder of Palantir. I mean, writer of 0 to 1, the book, the playbook on 21st century business, praised by Michael Saylor in Strategy World on Monday. Peter Thiel to me is the Warren Buffett of the 21st century. It makes no doubt. And Peter Thiel, of course, invested in both Narya Capital, which he helped fund, and he invested in Strive. That's a big deal, right? That's the one billionaire that you want on board. Howard Lutnick, the banker of the United States, the secretary of not the banker, he's the secretary of commerce. But he's a big deal. He's a big deal of the United States, the tariff guy of the United States. Okay. Howard Lutnick, $3 billion. And he's double dipping. Because not only is he a backer of 21 Capital, he's also a backer of Strive, which is pretty darn impressive. And then I think, I'm not sure a lot of people dug that, but I dug that up, this old investor presentation. Do you know who else is listed as a Strive investor? Bill Ackman. Bill Ackman, another deca-billionaire. So we have 2 deca-billionaires, 1 regular billionaire, 2 regular billionaires, actually. I should have renamed my video. Wait, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. No, it's 4. It's 4. It's 2 deca-billionaires and 2 regular billionaires backing this company. And so this becomes a question. It's like, do you follow the money, right? This is backed by 4 billionaires, 2 regular billionaires, 2 deca-billionaires. Do you follow the money, right? And again, when things settle down, when we get a price to NAV, if this is trading at a 2 price to NAV, this is getting pretty darn juicy. But I want to see things settle down. I'm going to watch it from afar and enjoy the rise and the spikes and the drops, but the roller coaster. But this is looking very promising. And not only is it money power, but it's also you're also very close to government here. Vivek Ramaswamy, J.D. Vance, Howard Lutnick. This is very close to the current leading government of the U.S., like the current government of the U.S. Very connected people, and they invest in this. So this is pretty darn outstanding. So let me conclude. So let's say it's September, and September 2025, that's it. The merger went through. They get X amount of Bitcoin converted with the how do they call it? It's not a 1031 exchange. It's a 351 exchange. With a free 1031 exchanges for real estate, it's the same type of thing. So with a 351 exchange, they get X amount of Bitcoin. Who knows how many Bitcoins Peter Thiel has that he wants to put in there? Who knows how many Bitcoins all of these early people have? And then they become a publicly traded company, and we get a price to NAV, and then boom, we are now competing, right? We are now competing, not competing, but we're now part of the club. We're along with 21, we're along with MicroStrategy, we're part of a club. What do we do? How do we grow the Bitcoin bag? Well, like I said, so I've already highlighted that. This is the merger pot, so people put in Bitcoin and then they get Strive, right? And there's also the public company shareholders of ASST. They're in the merger pot. They're going to get the new Strive shares. So that's all fine. They also mentioned this. We'll give Strive Asset Management the opportunity to expand the shelf registration beyond $1 billion. What does that mean? That means ATM. That's what I hear. I hear some sort of fundraising going on. A shelf registration is an opportunity to fundraise any day in the market. That's going to be a big deal. I don't know how much. I don't know when, but they're going to have access to that quickly. Right? CEP is not there yet. We're sooner than CEP on this one. And then the last thing, which is the most important thing, is point number 2 here, acquiring cash at a discount to accumulate Bitcoin. Now, when I hear this, what do I hear? I hear Carl Icahn, right? Carl Icahn, corporate raids. Carl Icahn comes in New York City, enters the building, and it says, "Oh, I fired 7 floors worth of people." And he smiles. That was the 1980s. That was Carl Icahn. Are we gonna see that for Bitcoin? I mean, because I looked, I did a search of companies trading under cash. Are they gonna strip American Airlines? Are they gonna shut down American Airlines and just get the cash? My viewers would not be happy about that, because I know AppCellera is big among investors, among growth investors. Are they going to buy AppCellera and just get rid of a company and get the cash? Like, yeah, there's a long list. Go on Finviz. There's a long list of companies that are trading at, say, 80 to 90% cash. Well, you get what I mean. A 0.8 or 0.9 times price to cash, right? 0.9 price to cash. So you're trading at you're trading at 100. You roughly got 110 worth of cash. You shouldn't be trading at 100 if you have 110 or 111 worth of cash. If that makes some sense. American Express. I'm sorry, American Airlines. This is crazy. So are we seeing the rise of a new form of corporate raids? Are we seeing the rise of a new form of forcing the market to actually earn returns that are consistent with BTC's return? I don't know. All I can say is that this is going to be absolutely exciting. I look forward to seeing what this company does. I am not buying right now. This is way, way, way too early. I am always sticking with MicroStrategy, sticking with Sailor. It's gonna take a very convincing value prop for me to jump out for now. So, anyways, this was not investment advice, not financial advice, just entertainment. Hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.